What's up, travelers? So welcome back. Today's going to be a tiny bit different because I really want to be able to start getting into like story time vlogs and kind of just like come on here and talk about different things that I find interesting. And I love watching YouTube videos where people just share different kinds of stories and talk about different things like, I don't know, shopping hauls, like story times about like paranormal stuff or trips or whatever, or crazy experiences, and I really wanted to be able to do that too. So I decided to sit down today. I am here. I have my pumpkin spice coffee. I am ready to go. And I thought, since in my mind it's already spooky season, I mean, I know it's not fall officially yet, but September, especially in Disney's eyes, is Halloween time. So since that's kind of the case, I figured why not tell some Disney World scary stories. So this is coming from past cast member. Obviously, as you guys know, I used to work for Disney, and it definitely has its fair share of spooks and haunted places. So I decided to kind of go off that. So I am going to be focusing only on Walt Disney World today. Obviously, Disneyland is super haunted. It's older, but I'm going to be focusing on Disney World first. And if you guys want, I can totally make a different video on Disneyland. The first thing I always like to point out is people tend to get confused about the difference between like haunted stories in Disney World versus Disneyland. Now I know, sorry, I had something in my mouth there. Now, a lot of people get them confused and think that the ghost stories that are coming from Disneyland are actually taking place in Disney World and vice versa. And a lot of people don't even really know the difference between Disneyland and Disney World. For those of you that don't, Disney World's in Florida, Disneyland is in California. Disneyland in California is the original one. Disney World came after the fact. But anyways, I thought we would dive right in and I would just share some scary stories. I'll definitely link below the post that I made before. I did a vlog actually in Magic Kingdom and specifically talked about the scary like ghost stories or like folklore that happens in Magic Kingdom specifically while I was walking around the park with my friend. It's a bit older, but I'll definitely share it below if you guys are interested in like actually seeing the locations in person kind of a way. I'll definitely be adding pictures today, but that one just kind of shows us walking around and talking about it at the same time. But so we're going to dive right in. So the first ride we're going to be talking about is the Haunted Mansion. And I'm sure some of you are probably like, well, yes, it is haunted. There's 999 happy haunts. I know that. And so do I. I know it too. But what a lot of people don't know is what goes on behind the scenes and sometimes on the day-to-day operations that might seem a bit shocking to you. I don't know. We'll find out. Some of you might already know, but what tends to happen is when a loved one passes away, sometimes guests will bring the loved one's ashes to the park and they will try to spread them on the Haunted Mansion ride. I don't know why people do this. I mean, I know obviously people growing up have a love for Disney World, and if they think that this was where they were happiest, let's spread the ashes there. It's illegal. Please don't do it. Disney is private property. Also, it causes a big mess for the poor cast members behind the scenes. So basically, this happens so often that Haunted Mansion has a specialized vacuum for cleaning ashes. So basically what happens is if this is sensed, it sets off tripwires. If someone's throwing something into the ride, as soon as anyone basically steps off their vehicle or anything is sensed outside of the vehicles, like where you can spread your arms out, a silent wire is tripped. And either the ride will automatically stop or someone's notified. So when someone tries to spread ashes, the ride will obviously be notified and then the ride has to be completely shut down. Because basically either everyone will be evacuated or no one else will be allowed on the ride because they have to do a deep clean. Obviously it's a huge liability just to leave someone's ashes on the ride. Basically what's going to happen to your family member is they're going to be vacuumed up. And I really don't think that's the way anyone wants to remember their family member. So going off of that, all these ashes that have been thrown there and cleaned up, that could lead to a lot of discontent for loved ones that are passed on. And so Disneyland has a very famous ghost because once again it does do the same issue because they have the same problem, I should say. And they are known to have the ghost of a little boy who stands at the exit and asks people where his mommy is because apparently his mom dumped his ashes way back in the day in the ride. But here in Disney World, there's a couple of different things that people believe are going on. Some people do believe that they see a little boy, kind of like in Disneyland. I did do a backstage tour as a cast member of the Haunted Mansion, and it was amazing. But our ghost host, who was showing us around, said that sometimes, like in the mornings and things like that, they'll feel like tugs on their sleeves of their costumes, or they'll feel someone pulling at the end of their coat, and they think, oh, maybe someone's looking to ask a question, like some kid has a question to ask. And when they look, there's no one there. And a lot of people will say that like sensors are being tripped when no one is on the ride. Like doors will be open and closing on their own when they're not supposed to, especially on the ride, that can cause the ride to stop. And just a lot of strange occurrences. And so one occurrence that actually happened to me personally, which is a crazy story, is I was in Magic Kingdom one day with my friend Mackenzie. We would have Magic Kingdom days when we worked there together. And we would just walk around the park, and our main point would be to go on the Haunted Mansion, because it's both of our favorite rides. So we thought it would be fun just to read up on some ghost stories before we went on to like completely freak ourselves out. It was kind of getting more towards the evening. The sun was setting a little bit, so we were waiting in line. And so for those of you who don't know, for the Haunted Mansion ride, the handicap exit comes first. So basically the handicap entrance is everyone who loads on the ride first, in case it might take a little bit longer for them to get on if they're changing out of a wheelchair, if they have a cane, whatever. And then the rest of the party and the rest of the surrounding guests who are waiting in the normal line enter after. So we were in line, we were waiting, we had just gotten past the stretching room, and I looked out of the corner of my eye, and I swear I saw an old man with a cane sitting in one of the first Doom buggies that was just entering the room, and I was like, okay, he came in through the handicap entrance. So I looked ahead, not thinking anything of it, and then I just kind of like glanced over again, because I was like, something seems weird, and he wasn't there anymore. So obviously, I just played it off as I was seeing things. I mean, it's dark in there, obviously, and also on top of that, we had just read ghost stories before we entered the ride, so I was like, I don't know. So we went on the ride, whatever. So then, believe it or not, a year later, so when I went down for my second college program, I did the same thing where I looked up ghost stories, and this time, I swear to you, I've never seen this story before in my life. The first one on the top was Haunted Mansion, Disney World, Man with Cane, and I was blown away. I was freaked out. The first thing I did was call my friend Mackenzie, and I was like, you have to listen to this. Like, this is what I swore I saw last year. I just didn't want to tell you to freak you out or to make you think that I was going crazy. But it said that supposedly a man with a cane is said to haunt the ride. The backstory behind him is kind of all over the place. They claim he was like a pilot who crashed in the area before Disney World even came to be. Obviously, a lot of it's just made up. No one knows for sure. Could be someone's ashes. We never know. Either way, I was like blown away by it. And they say that he likes to ride the ride in the evening and towards the end of the night, and you'll just see him in the queue line. And I was so shook, because that is exactly what happened to me. I was like blown away. I thought it was like the coolest thing in the entire world, and I didn't even know what to do about it. Anyway, so that's like my main points when it comes to the Haunted Mansion. There's just so many different things going on in there. I don't think anyone could truly pinpoint how many spirits may be haunting it, if that is the case. But we're going to head on over, stay in Magic Kingdom for right now, and head on over to Pirates of the Caribbean. Now, Pirates of the Caribbean, everyone knows, fun-loving ride, another one of the originals. But not a lot of people know about George. So George is probably one of the most well-known ghost stories in Disney World. George was, or the backstory supposedly says, that he was a worker that was working on the construction in the building of the original ride. And in the flaming room, when the pirates go and burn down the city, either he fell off scaffolding that was high up and landed to his death, or scaffolding fell on him. Now, obviously, there are no actual reports of this death, so it's probably most likely made up. But the ghost that supposedly lives in Haunted Mansion, Pirates of the Caribbean, would probably say otherwise. So, cast members that work in Pirates of the Caribbean have to always say goodnight to George every night. I have had friends who work there. I know it's true. Some people even say that you have to say good morning to George as well. And basically, the story behind it is, if you don't say goodnight to George, the ride's going to break down the next day. And I'm sure a lot of you are saying, well, yeah, rides break down. They break down all the time, especially in Disney. But if you don't say goodnight or you mock him, like if guests mock him on the ride, it'll tend to break down while those guests are on the ride, or for a prolonged time the next day. So I know one day someone claimed that they didn't say goodnight to George, and the next day the ride was broken down for 6 to 7 hours. They had to fly someone in from Chicago, or not Chicago, I don't even know, somewhere far away, who had originally worked on the ride just to fix it because the problem was that large. So it was pretty crazy. I was working at Aloha Isle that day, so I was like right there. But that's pretty much it. Just don't walk George. I know some guests will go on and say hello to him. Apparently he likes that. All I know is that cast members don't necessarily like to be the last one on the ride, especially the ones closing it because of George, because they don't want to forget to say goodbye. After that, we're going to actually pop on over to Epcot. Now, this one, I don't fully know the backstory of. I just know the stories. There is a rumor that Spaceship Earth, the giant golf ball, for those of you who don't know, is haunted. And so it says it's haunted by a little boy and a little girl. No one knows how they got there. No one knows their backstory. But it's said that they're seen running around and playing in the line for the ride. So like that outdoor line that comes out through the entrance before you go inside to hop on the ride. They're seen running around and playing. But then it's also said on the ride itself, which is kind of, this one always creeped me out the most. I don't know why. I think it's because the ride is so dark that I could just not imagine this. They say that they claim that you will see this small girl and small boy run past your cart while you're on the ride. And for those of you who don't know, it's inside the giant Epcot ball, and you just go up and up to the top, and it just basically takes you through history, and that's the concept of the ride, and then you go back down at the end. But there's only narrow walkways on either side of your cart for obviously like emergency exits. So just the fact that someone would be that close to you, or a ghost would be that close to you, of a little girl or a little boy running by, freaks me out. Like, nope, I would rather not. I don't know what it is about that, but that just makes me feel so eerie. Anyways, that's mainly the main thing I have for there. I don't really know what else, like where that could have came from, like everything that has to do with that. People also say that Impressions de France is haunted as well. That's the show that's in the France Pavilion. Once again, no real backstory. There's just a lot of cast members that say late at night when they're closing up the ride, they'll see someone in there standing and looking up at the screens, and when they try to tell them they have to leave or approach them, they disappear, which is super crazy to me. I find it interesting, but that's crazy. So when it comes to like hotels, obviously a lot of people say that a lot of the different Disney hotels are haunted, which makes sense. The places are so big, things have happened throughout the years, and I mean, there's always opportunity for things like this to happen, especially in such a big place and a big tourist place where people could pass away. The main haunted places that I've seen or heard about is Pop Century. Someone says that the 70s and the 50s section of Pop Century has some haunted rooms where things will move by themselves. People will see dark shadows at night when they're sleeping in their bed, not to freak anyone out who might be staying there soon. They just got renovated. They're very nice. But you just might have another person that's just staying in the room for free and not paying for the night. I don't know. The other thing I heard is that Port Orleans French Quarter is supposedly haunted. And I mean, I guess maybe if you come from that voodoo vibe of New Orleans, maybe it just transfers over to the French Quarter Resort. I don't know. But the only other few things I really wanted to like talk about, I'm kind of like looking on my computer to remember my notes I wrote down. People claim that Tom Sawyer's Island is haunted. That I don't necessarily believe, but I could totally see where people are coming from with that. It definitely has a really eerie vibe. I mean, when you're going through those caves and stuff, it's so dark. They have that eerie music playing in the background with the dripping of water. And I could definitely see why it creeps people out. I mean, especially because not many people necessarily know about the island or go on the island. So I know that a lot of people will just get a weird vibe when they're alone in a Disney park. I mean, I'm used to it because some nights I would be walking through parts of the park after it was closed and I would be the only one walking through. And obviously it's eerie at night when it's empty and you're only hearing Disney music playing through the speakers. But for guests who aren't used to that atmosphere, walking through Tom Sawyer's Island where there's not a lot of people around can definitely give off that eerie vibe. But to kind of end things off, since we kind of went back to Magic Kingdom there for a second, I want to talk about Main Street in Disney World. So for those of you who don't know, Walt Disney didn't live to see Disney World come to be. His brother Roy took over the plans, and that's why it's named Walt Disney World, because it was named after his late brother. He wanted to make his dream a reality by creating this bigger Disney amusement park, and that's how Disney World came to be. There is the partner statue in Magic Kingdom, which has Walt and Mickey holding hands, but a lot of people don't know that towards the flag post at the beginning of Main Street, there's a bench with Roy Disney and Minnie Mouse. And it is said, since Disney World was kind of more Roy's park, because he was the one who completed it, he gave the speech on opening day and everything like that, a lot of people claim to see that on Main Street, kind of towards the castle, and this was back when Wishes was the fireworks show, RIP, and who knows, it might still be happening now. This is just kind of what I've read up on, is that during the fireworks show, people will sometimes see a man standing next to them that looks very much like Roy Disney. And all the instances and all the cases have claimed that people have seen this man looking up at the fireworks show with tears running down his eyes, smiling. So basically, like, it's almost like Roy came back to just realize how proud he was of his work, knowing he made his brother's dream a reality, which is really heartfelt. And people claim that they know it was a ghost because half the time people will only see his upper half of his body. Like, once it gets down towards his feet, he kind of disappears. And also, sometimes people will say they'll look back up the castle and look back to right where he was and he's gone. And for those of you who know when the park's crowded, there's not much moving around without people noticing and seeing you leave. Especially if you're up by the castle, it gets pretty crowded up there. So for a man to just suddenly be gone, like 2 seconds after looking at the castle, doesn't seem quite right. So I don't know, I wanted to end on a happier note because for some reason that one like makes my heart happy, because I mean, he definitely was just happy, and if that is him watching the fireworks, he's just reliving his happier days and his good memories, knowing that his brother would be proud of him. His younger brother, he like fulfilled his goal. But overall, that's pretty much all the stories I have. I'm sure there's more. Maybe I'll do a part 2, or like I said, I would love to do the Disneyland one. But I do really want to get into more of these storytime videos, and I hope you guys liked it. Please let me know. Comment and subscribe, especially if you guys are interested in Disney stories. I am a past cast member, so I will probably be sharing more about random things, especially as time goes on. But overall, my channel is just about anything and everything. So on that note, I will see you guys next time, and have a great rest of your day. Bye.